Let's get ready to rumble! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
It's time! You're listening to New Mexico's only mixed martial arts and boxing podcast, The Low Blow, on AdamCombatSports.com and FightFans Radio.
Forever. Rockefeller.
I'm feeling it. Feel the bass. Feel the legs pushing up on the sand.
Rocking out of some Jay-Z here. I am Jorge Hernandez, joined by Will McClary. You're listening to the Low Blow MMA Boxing Podcast on SWFight.com, FightFans Radio, and USCombatSports.com. We're all over the place. Will, how you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good, man. I like the way you took it back like that, brother.
Oh, a little bit of old school, man. He's not my favorite rapper in the world, but that is one of the best songs ever there by Jay-Z, feeling it.
Yeah, that's the way we coming in, man, because I'm feeling a lot of these fights.
Yeah, definitely. So how you been, man? We're just chilling out. We've been missing you a little bit here and there. We've been missing each other, technically, I guess.
Yeah, man, it's good to be back, man. Definitely ready to discuss what's going on in the combat sports world. We got a lot of things to talk about this evening, man, for real.
Definitely, and just quickly run everything by you. You can catch us on Twitter at the Low Blow. You can catch us via email and that's lowblow505@gmail.com. Make sure you guys hit us up on there, and we also got that Facebook page. Please hit us up on there. We're always posting tons of stuff. That's the Low Blow MMA Boxing Podcast. So Low Blow MMA Boxing Podcast. So go ahead and check us out. This past week, we've had a lot of news, both positive and negative. This weekend, I had the honor of actually going to the Sammy Burke Youth Boxing Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I had a chance to meet up with the WBA 154-pound champ Austin Trout, who's preparing for the biggest fight of his career against Dalvin Rodriguez, June 2nd. Make sure you check out our Twitter, our Facebook. We're coming up with a series with SWFight.com, that's Southwest Fight News. Over the week, we'll just develop a lot of articles and videos just to give you guys a little insight of how the Austin Trout camp is actually running. He's the only champion New Mexico has when it comes to boxing, so it's definitely there. We're going to support him. A couple of Strikeforce notes this past weekend. It was incredible. Daniel Cormier, I thought, easily outpointed Josh Barnett. He's definitely elite heavyweight. He wasn't even supposed to be in it. Josh Barnett, I definitely think he's going to go head off to the UFC. And for those of you that missed it, Gilbert Melendez, Josh Thompson, Will being one of them, man, you got to go back and catch that. It's one of the best fights that you will probably see all year. Definitely Fight of the Year candidate. Also, there was a lot of mix-up there as to who won the fight. I thought Josh Thompson actually pulled it off 3-2, but it's all in the eyes of the judges. And, it could have gone either way. Thompson, I thought, won 3 of those rounds. Not convincingly, but he did beat Melendez there. A lot of people feel that Melendez may have won it, so it's definitely split down the middle when it comes to that. Also, Jackson's MMA product, fighting out of Santa Fe, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Also, Isaac Valley Flag had an impressive victory over Jay-Z Cavalcante. So, we'd like to give a big shout-out to Isaac Valley Flag. The guy's an excellent person, and we're happy to see that he's actually was able to pull that off. William, today marks the 44th anniversary that New Mexico actually got its first world champion in Bob Foster. What do you think of Bob Foster? Ranks all time when it comes to light heavyweights? Personally, him and Archie Moore, I think, might take the crown for the greatest light heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, man, I would definitely have to agree with that. And it's just like, he just had some really memorable fights, legendary status, big fights against Ali, Frazier. I mean, he was ducking nobody. And it never ceases to amaze me that, he just doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. I hope that, definitely times have changed. Austin Trout being a native of New Mexico, I definitely hope that history doesn't repeat itself, because I don't think that in the sense of the New Mexico boxing world, it doesn't seem like they really appreciate my man Bob Foster. I mean, he's definitely from the state. and he's representing, man. I mean, we're talking about a Hall of Famer here, and we just got to get his name out there some more, man. So it's like I said, it just never ceases to amaze me of such an outstanding fighter who doesn't get recognition like some of the other great champions who have come out of New Mexico.
And I completely agree with you, man. It's a little disappointing, whether it be race, maybe even the media coverage that he had around that time. New Mexico wasn't that big of a media hub as it is now, and ranked in the top 50 of the markets. But it's still, this guy deserves the love. Eventually, the crowd here has got to recognize it's pretty underground. With the people that even know who he is, which blows my mind.
He's like one of the Ring. I mean, the Ring magazine. They listed him as one of the 100 greatest punchers. I mean, 56 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw, and 46 wins coming by way of knockout. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I just don't understand how this is not underneath the radar. And like you said before, I definitely think that race is always a factor. I would like to think that we're evolving, so hopefully we can just appreciate, boxers of all colors. And, my man Austin Trout, I just hope that his marketing team just learns from some of the mistakes that, New Mexico has made with, Bob Foster. So hopefully we just get that recognition, because he definitely put New Mexico on the map, whether they want to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, and Trout's definitely getting the love from a lot of Albuquerque media. We wish that the Las Cruces and El Paso area, he was born in El Paso, man. There's no reason why El Paso should not be covering him, only 30 minutes away from Las Cruces. So despite that, Albuquerque will keep showing the love, especially, our podcast, man, our website. We're going to keep showing the love. And this morning I posted up an article, basically asking everyone to celebrate the 44th anniversary for for Bob Foster. And within it, at the very end, I included why there is not a statue of Bob Foster outside of University Arena there. The pit is beyond me. I mean, it's a perfect spot to have it. He defended his title a couple of times there. For the most part, he fought out of Washington, D.C., just because of the fact he was stationed there for when he did, serve his country. But no matter. He was born here. He defended his title here. He now resides here. So definitely, I think, he deserves the love and that he should get and does deserve.
And not only that, in addition, he was also a police officer.
Exactly.
In the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department. So he's definitely just attributed so much to the state. I mean, they just have to finally come around and recognize his greatness as a fighter in the ring, and just as an upstanding citizen outside of the ring as well.
Definitely, and there was a lot of boxing news that was going down. Will, where do you want to start? Canelo's fighting Paul Williams. What do you think of that fight?
Woo, man! I like it. Canelo, like we discussed before, I don't think that in terms of the Sugar Shane Mosley fight I'm referring to, there's some speculation we discussed about him, having a little bit of compassion, withholding some of that ferociousness that he's known for. But I don't think he's going to hold it back against Paul Williams. And Paul Williams is, his style is pretty much tailor-made for Canelo. I definitely think that, Paul Williams, he's gonna, I think he's gonna live another night of that Sergio Martinez with that punch that he doesn't see coming, and he's gonna be sleeping. I mean, Paul Williams is an excellent fighter. Don't get me wrong. He never ducks anybody. He definitely comes to fight, but I just think that it was just, first and foremost, I've always felt that Paul Williams was a little bit overrated, and I just wish that he had the toolage of like an Emmanuel Stewart. I always say this because of just how he's framed. I don't think that he utilizes his best assets. That it's just his natural ability that he has. I mean, here's this guy, just lanky, just like a Tommy Hearns, but he fights like a brawler. And when he's fighting like that brawler, I mean, he's just really an easy target. And then a young and upcoming superstar like Canelo, who's his precision punching is pretty good. I mean, his power definitely speaks for himself, and I just think he's going to find Paul Williams easily. And Paul Williams has a pretty good chin, but I think Canelo is young and he definitely has a knockout power. Paul Williams would definitely be a name that he would be looking forward to putting on his resume. But regardless of all that, I think that this is going to be a fireworks type of fight. I don't think that Paul Williams is going to lay down for a second, and if the opportunity presents himself to put some damage and punish Canelo Alvarez, Paul Williams is definitely going to do it. And I definitely don't count him out. But, just right off the bat, when I heard the fight, I thought knockout Canelo.
And, it looks like they're tossing him in against some of those, old crafty veterans that were at one time the prime considered one of the, pound-for-pound best. Paul Williams obviously never had the title as pound-for-pound best, but he was always in the top 5 when he was in his prime. Shane Mosley was at one point considered possibly the greatest pound-for-pound until Vernon Forrest laid that butt whooping on him.
Oh, man.
And, it's a good fight to build Canelo's name. Ultimately, I hope he fights the James Kirtlands, the Austin Trouts, the Alvin Rodriguezes of the world, because that weight class is loaded. It's too loaded for this guy not to take fights. And it's kind of, it's kind of a burden, I think, on Canelo that he won the title when he was so young. Because, you're expecting him to fight Trout, to fight Kirtland, to fight Canine. But think about it, he's 21 still, man. And I think we're rushing him just a little bit, but I think that's boxing's fault for giving him in such an easy fight to win that belt when he originally won it.
I completely agree, and it's just, I think in terms of the desperation for another superstar to emerge, I think that, people are rushing it a little bit. I mean, he's just, he's got the charisma, he's got all the skill sets, but like you said, I mean, this kid is 21. I mean, they can't burn him up that quick. But you know what? In terms of his matchups, in terms of his opposition, I mean, this guy, like, he's 21. I mean, I can't stop saying that because his skill sets are just a veteran status. So in today's sports, in terms of the boxing world, I mean, he's definitely got to keep the public's interest. Like the hardcore fans definitely know who he is, but some of these names that he's fighting, like the Sugar Shane Mosley, Paul Williams, to me, I don't think that they really pose a real threat to this kid losing. I mean, in terms of those names, I think those were a good selection of opponents that have great backgrounds. I mean, Sugar Shane. I mean, everybody knows that this guy's washed up by now. But regardless of the fact, he is a Hall of Famer. He was still in impeccable shape. Canelo got him out of there. Paul Williams. I think they matched that up because they know, that Paul Williams. He's coming off a win, and he still has the capability to put his name out there. I mean, that fight with Sergio Martinez, I mean, that definitely put, Martinez and Paul Williams on the map, with that rematch. And I think that, ultimately he just doesn't pose a threat. So with those two opponents, I don't think that he's being necessarily rushed. But when we're talking about, the other superstars within that weight class, that's when they should take their time a little bit, because we don't want this guy to get punch drunk at like 25 and become a quick burnout. You know what I mean? So it's just so these fighters, they got to move at a good pace so they can have the longevity of a good boxing career that will still allow them to be a businessman or fully functional after they retire.
Yeah, definitely, I completely agree. And I like the fight. It's a good way, again, to build Alvarez's name, but also to test his skill against such a strange, I guess, almost you want to call him unorthodox just because of the length that Paul Williams does possess. Furthermore, this Saturday there's a pretty big fight that isn't getting as much hype as it should, I think. Lucien Boutte against your Cobra friend Carl Froch. What do you think of that fight? It's happening out on the other side of the pond, so that might help Froch, but he's still a slight underdog there with some of the bookies.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Carl Froch coming off the Super 6, he made it to the finals. He lost against Andre Ward, so he's looking to bounce back big. And Lucien Boutte, I'm glad to see him take this fight because,
on the road, especially, not in Canada, not in French Canada.
Finally, and not against, just an opponent that he knows he's going to crush. I mean, this should make for, hopefully will be, a good fight. I hope to see, the Cobra Carl Froch be the aggressor here, because I think that, let's remember what Andrade was able to do against Boutte in their first fight. I mean, he put that constant pressure on them. I mean, Carl Froch's style, I mean, he's somewhat of a bully. his style is very weird, but I think that would be the way to go against against Lushan Bute, because if you have to come down to the basic boxing, Lushan Bute is definitely the better boxer. So I believe that Carl Froch cannot give Bute that opportunity to box him. I think that Carl Froch needs to be very aggressive. I think that Carl Froch has good power, and he's just gonna have to pace himself. I think he's gonna definitely, like I said, he's gonna have to be the brawler, but he's gonna have to be able to box a few rounds with Bute just to make sure that he can use that aggressiveness all the way to the 12th round if it takes him that long to really hurt Bute. So it is possible. I'm glad to see them matched up because, as we discussed before, Bute, we wanted to see him in the Super 6 tournament. He wasn't. Now he's fighting, the finalists of that tournament. So it should make for a really interesting fight at the super middleweight weight class.
And I think that Andrade fight that you're bringing up actually makes this fight more compelling just because of the fact neither guy has really been knocked out. I guess technically Andrade kind of knocked out, Bute there if the ref wouldn't have given him a 25 count.
Oh, man.
The first time they actually fought, but it makes for a very compelling matchup. You never know. I think we might even be walking into a classic, Will, the way we're seeing it. Both of these guys are accustomed to this weight class. They've been dominant at this weight class. Bute is one of the best fighters that people actually don't know of. He's had the championship since 2007. Let me quickly read through this list, and then you tell me yes or no after I ask the question.
All right.
Cotto Gamboa, Vladimir Klitschko, Tim Bradley, Andre Ward, Juan Manuel Marquez, Nonito Donaire, Sergio Martinez, and then obviously the two kingpins at the top. If Lucien Bute wins this fight convincingly against Carl Froch, is he in the category of one of the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters?
At the currently top 10 pound per pound, it's just hard to say because of just the opposition that he's faced. That's some of the frustration with Bute. I think he's looked excellent, but he hasn't been really facing the top opposition to me. Mm-hmm. So I can't really put him on that list. But like you said, if he takes this fight, let's face it. Carl Froch, he did not win the Super 6 tournament. So, it takes a little bit away there.
And he had a questionable decision that he won against Andre Jarrell also, which was a very close fight. So I agree with you there.
Absolutely. So I'm not ready to put Bute there yet. I think that he needs to fight at least probably about 2 or 3 opponents that has really got a name out there and really poses a threat to him. So I'm not ready to put him there yet.
And this list, I just pulled it out. About.com actually had it. It's actually a decent list. I rarely look at About.com for one of the top, the top 10 pound for pound list, but it's not too bad. Maybe Vitaly Klitschko might be in there with his brother, but I know how you disagree with that. But I think for that list there, I think you could actually, if Carl Froch loses to Bute, you could put Bute in Yorkis Gamboa's spot, because Gamboa hasn't fought the world names either, but he has fought pretty good competition himself, however, and he's a very talented fighter. So I think, not necessarily even close to top 5, but I say maybe the 9 or 10 spot that Bute might actually jump into. But we're all waiting for that Andre Ward-Bute fight. If both men are victorious in their next fight. So it's, makes for very compelling matchups in a loaded 168 weight class division. And Will, I know you wanted to talk about the Raymond Serrano and Kareem Mayfield fight that actually happened last weekend on ESPN. The fight took place in Albany, New York. Both guys came in with an undefeated record. Raymond Serrano, I felt, had the crowd more. Obviously, Kareem Mayfield being from the Bay Area, and Serrano just right over from Philadelphia, not too far of a drive from there. So, what'd you think of the fight? What'd you think of Kareem Mayfield? Did he scare you as much as he scares me? Not meaning by his talent, but by his style.
Yeah, his style is crazy. That overhand right that he threw was just brilliant. Because I thought that, when I tuned in, he looked to me like he was losing the fight.
Yeah.
He was getting outboxed, and boom, there you go. And he just threw that bad boy, and it landed, and I just knew that it was over. I actually thought that they should have. I know the bell rung. He pretty much got saved by the bell, but he did not recover from that shot. It was a beautiful shot. It was one of the Mike Tyson joints, and he rocked him out, man. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can see. I mean, it's just good to see a puncher these days.
And that small of a weight class also,
Yeah.
which is amazing. That just blows me away that he's not scared. He's willing to put himself in danger just to be able to knock somebody out. And I saw a little bit of Edwin Valero in him, man. That's the first time I've seen him fight, just highlights and clips. But this was the first full fight that I've seen. And he reminded me a lot of Edwin. I don't know if you saw that either, but...
Yeah, I mean, just his aggressiveness, I can see where he reminds you of Edwin because it just got, Edwin was the kind of boxer, if the plans, if it's not going according to plan in terms of the strategy and the pace, and if the sweet science is going sour, then they just go all out. They're just like, they're gonna put everything aside. You're like, you know what, this guy, he's boxing better than me. My timing's off. Let me just go in there and see if I can get this guy out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they're willing to take that risk. And I love the fighters who are willing to take that risk. I don't know if that really is gonna promote them to have a really long career. And when they face, that boxer puncher who, the boxer puncher is always gonna give these type of guys problems. But in the meantime, these other guys who, they're they got the good footwork and they got some pretty good combinations. But those type of fighters, they're always gonna be able to test out a fighter's chin, you know what I mean? So, and he did just that, and he was victorious, and I commend him for it.
And very quickly, I forgot to mention that Lucien Boutet and Carl Froch, it's not going to be on Showtime. It's going to be on Epix, if you have the channel, and Epix HD. You can sign up for a free membership on Epix HD. I've watched a few European heavyweight contests on there, so definitely sign up for Epix HD. It's going to start at 4 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, so which is 2 p.m. here. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. I believe we actually tweeted the time and also information over how to actually do that. So, Will, you better log on early in the day. I don't know if you're busy, you're out doing a barbecue, or what you're doing, but
yeah, man. I definitely I'm willing to do it, but I'm just saying that that's a good point that you brought up. I mean, how do you think this is going to affect the fight? That it's it's not on a well-known network to a lot of boxing fans, or at least not to this one.
Well, I mean, I think it had a lot to do with it. If the fight was to happen in New York or maybe California, then they would have obviously, been a little bit nicer to the U.S. audience and had it on at 8 p.m. But because it's two, if you think about it, two of the top 5 European fighters currently fighting, they actually wanted it to happen out there. Obviously, you wanted to have it happen in either. In either France or maybe Romania, where Lucien's originally from. I doubt Romania would actually pay that big bucks to have it, but it makes sense that it's happening in England, and they're pleasing them to their time zone. So it's going to be 10 p.m. out there, so it's going to hurt them, but obviously the U.S. boxing press didn't care enough about it to actually bring it here. But regardless, we should have a good fight. So. Whether it be So Boxing, YouTube it, watch it live, just watch the fight. Show some love for the sport.
No doubt.
And we also we'd be remiss without saying, and Justin would probably kill us, UFC 146 is happening this weekend. What do you think of an all-heavyweight card, man? All the fights on here are going to be heavyweights. What do you think about that? And I know you love the light heavyweight scraps there in the UFC.
I love it, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's bring it on. Like I said before, I mean, like you mentioned before in boxing, that's just what, it's intrinsic for me to think of heavyweights in that style. But, the Klitschko's, I give them props, but they're not entertaining. So, the UFC, all heavyweight card, I'm all for it, man. I just look forward to the ferociousness of the sport. And it's always just entertaining because, I feel like, I was going to ask you a question too, like the lighter weight classes within mixed martial arts. Sure. To me, it just normally seems like they're able to display the versatility of the sports. But, the heavyweight guys, I mean, a lot of times, some of them, of course, they're able to display it too, but it's just a pure power. And, you just at any second, you could just anticipate that a knockout could happen any second. But, how likely are we to see like a chokeout or, basically, or a kick with the big heavyweights opposed to the guys at the lower weight divisions in UFC?
Well, I think, little by little you're seeing a lot more of that, especially because, a lot of these heavyweights were based off of the K1 and Pride style of fighting where, you'd go all out, you'd kick, you'd punch, you'd be trained in all these other arts. So, we're going to start seeing it a lot more. I think people I think ultimately MMA they're going to, as they advance and progress with the boxing element, I think that's when you're going to see the more knockouts. Obviously, you want to train in all fields, so the boxing isn't completely concentrated on, but them practicing on the other skill sets, you're going to see more and more of that. And you see a decent and fair amount, I think, of submissions. If you remember, Frank Mir, who's fighting Junior Dos Santos in the main card for the title for this heavyweight, he fought Antonio Nogueira the last time, and he broke his arm with the Kimura. Nogueira did not tap out.
That's so true.
He cranked that thing like Soldier Boy, man, and it was over with. It looked like, just like spaghetti. His arm just went, but, we give Nogueira credit because he didn't tap out, but at one point, do you not tap out? Who knows how they may have changed his career. So, again, we have Junior Dos Santos 14-1 against Frank Mir 16-5. And Frank Mir actually has a decent amount of victories by submission. 9 of his victories have been by submission, and only 3 have been by knockout. Well, actually, Dos Santos, he's the complete opposite. He's the type of guy you're talking about. Out of his 14 wins, he has 10 knockouts, only 2 submissions, and 2 decisions. He knocked out Cain Velasquez there the last time he fought on that first UFC.
Yeah, and that guy's fighting. Velasquez. That's another one. He's up on here too against Silva, and then we got
against Bigfoot Silva. Bigfoot Silva against one of those Strikeforce guys that's participated in that heavyweight tournament that is now moving over to the UFC. And I guess we're going to see that with Barnett. Eventually, we're going to see that with Daniel Cormier, because Cormier won the tournament. He has to have one more fight with Strikeforce per his contract. So it's a pretty good fight. All right, if you want to go, let's go ahead and do the picks for the top 2 fights. Junior Dos Santos or Frank Mir, and how did they pull this victory off?
Oh man, you just reminded me in terms of what Frank Mir is able to do with the submissions. Oh man, I just Junior Dos Santos. I never forget that. How he just put Cain Velasquez away. If he brings that type of game, Frank Mir. I don't want to say that he's necessarily in trouble, because this is a big guy too. He can definitely handle himself. But just those submission skills, that's where we talk about the arsenal for mixed martial arts. If that is lacking on Santos' part, I think that might just give Frank Mir the slight advantage here in this situation. What do you think?
I think, because Junior Dos Santos seems a little bit elusive, and Mir, he does have a few losses, and all of them have been by KO or TKO. So I think, just thinking about that, I think I'm going to go with Dos Santos by KO in the first or second round, man. But Frank Mir poses a very dangerous threat if this does go down to the ground, man. If he was strong enough to hold down a Nogueira, he's strong enough to hold out Dos Santos, I think, and possibly, make him tap. But I think Dos Santos is just, too concentrated. He doesn't have too many distractions because he doesn't speak the best English in the world, so he doesn't do too much media with the American press. Also, so I'm going with him by knockout. When it comes to the Cain Velasquez Antonio Silva fight, again, we also haven't seen Cain Velasquez in the octagon since that brutal loss to Dos Santos. So I'm interested in seeing how he comes back. And the fight is actually taking place in Las Vegas, so I think it might still weigh on his mind, that last fight, because he's not fighting too far from home in Northern California. So I'm interested in seeing on how this actually plays for him. Antonio Silva, he was knocked out by Daniel Cormier in his last fight. He was the favorite actually in that fight also. Cormier had no business actually even winning the Strikeforce tournament, so he's a good Cinderella story to come out of nowhere. But with Silva, I think Cormier showed the blueprint of how to actually beat him. Cain Velasquez has a similar style to Daniel Cormier, except Cain Velasquez is a much better wrestler than Daniel Cormier, and I think he's able to get the TKO over Silva, I think.
Good deal, man. I'm looking forward to it. And then the last one is the Roy Nelson versus Herman, man. What do you think about this guy, Roy Nelson? Just his physical appearance. You would just think, like, what's this guy doing in there? But he's just got, he's got tremendous stamina, and his skill sets are just amazing to me every time. But how you think this matchup against Herman is going to play out?
I think it's a very interesting one. I think, I think the guy's basically getting into better shape, and Nelson's a slight favorite here, so I think I'm going to go with him. Dave Herman, this guy has fought in the UFC a couple of times. He's 1-1. He lost his last fight by TKO. So I'm not really too familiar with the guy besides his last 2 fights that he's actually had. And he lost to Steven Struve the last time he actually fought. The skyscraper is 6'10".
Yeah.
So it's going to be a huge difference going down to Roy Nelson, who's 6 foot even. So it'll be a little more accustomed to what he's used to. But Dave Herman himself is 6'5". So he's susceptible to one of those over-the-top right hooks or crazy Antonio Mayorga punches that Roy Nelson actually throws. So you know what? What the hell? I'll go with Roy Nelson, man.
Yeah, man. The mullet power should do it.
Don't underestimate the mullet. There's one more thing that I wanted to go over on that card. Diego Brandao, who actually was victorious in the Ultimate Fighter tournament here within about 6 months ago. He will be fighting Darren Elkins, who's 13-2. Diego Brandao fights here out of Jackson's. He trains with some world-class guys, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he does against Elkins, especially coming off of 4 straight victories and winning, I believe, about 5 of his last 6. So it's going to be really interesting. Darren Elkins is 13-2. His wins are divided also, so he's a dangerous fighter standing up. He's won 4 by knockout, 5 by submission, and all the others by decision. So it'll be a very interesting fight to see. This is the 5th UFC contest he's actually in. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Diego Brandao actually comes off, off of those other 4 victories. So he's from Jackson's. Keep an eye out for him. He's a pretty talented fighter as well. And Will, is there anything else you wanted to go over, man? We basically covered everything. We tried our best for Justin to crank out that MMA news. Hopefully it went very well.
I think it's good, man. I hope he's satisfied with that. Yeah, I just, and definitely, one more is just, the tremendous disappointment of these cancellations with these fights, man. I mean, the Americon and the Peterson, the Andre Berto and the Victor Ortiz rematch. Peterson and Berto, testing positive for illegal substances. I mean, this just continues to be a problem. I think that those 2 rematches were vital to the world of boxing for this year. Because there's been some pretty decent fights, but me myself as a fan, I was really looking forward to both of those rematches. And just each time I heard that they were canceled, I was just infuriated. And and now we run the risk of not being able to complete these great stories that were set up. I mean, with Lamont Peterson and Americon. Yeah, I mean, back to the first fight, as we discussed before, and I stated, I don't think that Lamont Peterson won that fight. I think he had those point deductions from the referee with the bogus pushing. That didn't cut it for me. But I thought he fought a tremendous fight. And he definitely fought a good enough fight to get closer to to get a bogus decision. But now that decision is being questionable because he admitted that he was using the same training regimen in the first fight. And then we have Andre Berto. He hurt his arm the first fight, and now he tests positive. So I mean, it's just a constant problem, and it's just going back. I mean, Floyd Mayweather is just continuously, proving that he's onto something here with these athletes. You know what I mean? So the blood testing, I just think we're gonna see a lot more of that. Unfortunately, it looks like there's a lot of illegal substances going about. So I don't know if we're gonna have these great fights prolonged and continue to be canceled because of the extreme intensity that they represent. But ultimately, if they don't fight, it's pointless, right?
Yeah, it's definitely very disappointing that that type of world caliber guys had to resort to that. Whether we don't know if we assume it's 100% true, man. It's hard to accept, especially for us. I think that these fights actually didn't go down. We thought it was an early dry part of the boxing season. This summer just soaked it all up, man, and dried it all up. These 2 world championship fights. Hopefully, Lucien Boutet gives us, and Carl Froch give us some fireworks. Hopefully, Austin Trout, Tarver, and Winky Wright give us some fireworks the following week. And then hopefully Manny Pacquiao. So we got 3 straight weekends of huge boxing fights. And, I even think that fight card next weekend, I'll actually be there in Los Angeles, man. I don't know if you know that. I'll be out in L.A. catching those fights in Carson, California.
Yeah.
So you got Tarver, against Coyote.
Yeah.
Kid Chocolate. I'm interested in seeing Kid Chocolate in person, man. This guy talks a lot, but, he's backing it up lately.
Yeah.
Against Winky, right? Winky's been out of the game for a few years, about 3 years, but it's interesting to see. But also, you got a few world championships up for grabs on that card. So, and it's a free. Can you think about it? You got Tarver's belt, Trout's belt, up in there. It's and it's going to be on just regular Showtime and not pay-per-view. So I'm looking forward to it. FX HD this weekend. If you've never heard of it, just try it. They do occasionally have Dan Raphael from ESPN and Freddie Roach actually doing the play-by-play and announcement, along with, I forget the main anchor's name, but they got some decent names and they got some pretty knowledgeable people on the network, I may add, whenever they do decide to go with that. But, Will, is there anything else you want to add, man?
I just, just for a quick rumor mill, that comes straight from Ring Magazine, rapper 50 Cent is talking about making his pro debut, So, I want to see this guy matched up against Kimbo Slice.
Oh, my God, man.
I think that would be...
And you know what? Who I think might even take that fight also? Roy Jones, man. He's taking everything else. So, y'all must have forgot against Up in the Club. Let's see which one wins.
I just hope he doesn't, just take another butt whooping, man. Roy, I always say, you just gotta stop this, you know what I mean? But, hey, it'd be, I bet it'd definitely sell a lot of tickets to see the famous rapper 50 Cent jump in the ring. And the guy's not inexperienced. He was a Golden Gloves champ.
Yep.
Guy's always been in shape, so, that could only help his record career,
Yeah, definitely. And again, catch us on Facebook, LowBlow MMA Boxing Podcast. We're helping out Southwest Fight News, so check them out on Facebook as well. And, always our podcasts on FightFans Radio and USCombatSports.com. So check us out on all those media outlets. We're everywhere. We're working harder than a Jamaican. So make sure y'all check us out, again, at The Low Blow on Twitter. For Will McClary, Justin Goodrum, who is not here, I'm Jorge Hernandez. We'll catch you guys.
Peace.